told you I was trouble. You know that I'm no good.
Greetings from Castle Goring, from Aurora and from me. Well, I think Aurora wants to give me lips, kisses and lamby-bambies. So I am going to stroke her as I plunge in with what the fabulously named Belladonna has to say. I don't know how many of you remember what Belladonna actually is. Well, at least one of the Belladonnas. Lady C. And then she says some very nice things which I'm going to skip over before going to the question. My question to you is, given Meghan and Harry's appalling behaviour at the Foster Foundation, not to mention her behaviour regarding Martha Stewart's comment on what she overheard at the Gala, will they continue to be invited to and received at charity events? It is difficult to believe Harry is a member of the royal family, given his unacceptable behaviour. Well, yes. The fact of the matter is, it wasn't Harry's unacceptable behaviour on both occasions. It was Meghan's unacceptable behaviour. And the fact of the matter is that Meghan is gratis Harry a member of the royal family. The short answer is, of course, they're still going to be asked to things. Harry and Meghan assure anybody who has them as a guest at anything of attention above and beyond what the inviter would be receiving normally. Whether it was the Robbinses at the Bob Marley premiere in Jamaica, or David Foster, who wanted everybody to know that the Foster Foundation has been up and running for 40 years. It would not have received worldwide attention without Harry and Meghan's presence and Meghan's absence of grace and civilized behaviour. The Martha Stewart thing is something altogether different, because Meghan, of course, was a guest of a guest. And Martha Stewart, I am assured by people who know the California scene, know Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart was deliberately plunging the knife in. Let's remember, aside from anything else, Martha Stewart is a supporter of King Charles III. Let's remember that. And Martha Stewart was quite deliberately plunging the knife in and doing it elegantly to an interloper whom she felt had been trying to trespass on her territory, and having failed to do so, deserved to be publicly eviscerated, and she did. Those occasions, as a result of Meghan Markle's presence and her behaviour at them, got far more media coverage than they would otherwise have got. It's a no-brainer. You want to have media coverage, ask Harry and Meghan. They are guaranteed to attract worldwide international coverage. It's as simple as that. And you know, in situations like that, most people feel bad publicity is not bad publicity when it is not shining a light on their bad behavior, but somebody who's badly behaved is shining a light on their cause. So it's a no-brainer, and it's a winner for whoever wants to ask Meghan and Harry. It's as simple as that. Lady Villa says, "How lovely, Lady C. Why, oh why did Meghan think she could fit in British society?" Meghan never thought she could fit into British society. Meghan always knew she couldn't fit into British society. Meghan made no attempt to fit into British society. Meghan, from the very outset, was abrasive, irritating, pointedly a misfit. Do you remember when Harry and Meghan started to go out, and Harry took her to 1 or 2 weekends? His friends said, "Oh, who's this nightmare woman? I mean, she has no sense of humor. She's always lecturing everybody. She's such a bore. She's just terrible." That was at the very beginning of them going out together. Now, that in itself tells you something, because Harry cannot have cared about his friends, his family, or the way of life that he had at that time, as much as he cared about keeping Meghan on side and sweet. Otherwise, he'd have thought, this woman is a total misfit. She is abrasive. She goes out of her way to make everybody feel awkward. Any joke they tell, she glowers at them because it's not politically correct in her eyes. And that's at the very beginning. Then, when they get married, she goes to occasions. For instance, well, I won't mention the name of the wedding, actually, but there was a well-known wedding nearby here that with one of Harry's childhood friends, and she went to it, and she was, first of all, a lot of it was outside, and they had bales of hay, and everybody else was in espadrilles or shoes that you could walk in outside. Meghan was tottering in 27-inch heels. Everybody who went up to Meghan, because it was on Meghan's birthday as well, and it's in my book. The whole occasion is in my book, Meghan and Harry, the real story. One of the guests went up to her to tell her how fabulous they thought she was and how beautiful they thought she was, and she looked them up and down and walked off. Another guest tried to engage her in conversation, and she just ignored them. She pointedly refused to incorporate with anybody and made off to sit by herself by a bale of hay, so that Harry would have to go. And, oh, Meg, what's wrong? Oh, ain't you? All your friends are just so awful. They just make me feel so bad. I mean, they're not welcoming to me. Oh, ain't you? They're just so dreadful. They're all such snobs, and they're all so colour prejudiced. And, I mean, they can't. I think also they're jealous of me because I was a star of Suits. And let's remember that I'm the biggest star that ever lived, and I think they're jealous of me. Oh, H. How much longer am I going to have to endure this awful life with these ghastly people? She made no attempt to fit in None. She was rude when she was with the royals. She would turn on the charm, and then as suddenly as she turned it on, when it suited her, she turned it off. And she was always challenging everybody. So did she make an attempt to fit in? On the contrary, she made sure she rubbed everybody up the wrong way except the late Queen and the then Prince of Wales, Prince Charles. She went on a charm offensive with them, which worked. It didn't work with Prince Philip. He saw right through her. It didn't work with Princess Anne. She saw right through her. It didn't work with Edward and Sophie. It didn't work with anybody else of any note. But it worked with the Queen and it worked with Prince Charles, both of whom were sufficiently soppy and sentimental, and really sentimental is the word, to think, oh, well, let's give her a chance, she doesn't really know the score, she's very unsophisticated, she's, she'll learn, let's accentuate the positive. But so, did she think she could fit into British society? Clearly not. She made no attempt to do so. I personally think that she felt inadequate. I think that her massive inferiority complex, which she hides from herself and everyone else, with that gross overlay of narcissistic self-adoration, I think she felt inadequate and she felt like a fish out of water. She was like a fish out of water. And she didn't give herself time to stand back and learn. No, she wanted to change everything. Everybody was to change his or her behaviour to accommodate Meghan. That's the arrogance of the woman. Jules Y. says, one thing Meg couldn't copy from Diana is standing on the hospital steps with a baby in her arms after giving birth. Well, Jules, let me put it this way. You're not the first person who has made that observation, and I'm sure you're not going to be the last person who has made that observation. It is extraordinary. It doesn't add up that somebody who is as competitive as Meghan, who never misses an opportunity to attach herself to the habits and practices of others when she thinks those habits and practices are going to garner her attention, that as they have garnered the people whom she admires, would have missed the opportunity. I mean, it's a photo op of a lifetime. So you have to ask yourself, why did she miss the photo op? Well, clearly it cannot be because she was a geriatric mother and she was therefore going to be concerned as to the capacity of her ability to actually stand up on the steps. Because let's remember, notwithstanding the fact that she had a water birth, 2 epidurals, not one, 2 epidurals and a water birth. Oh, I thought when you have an epidural, you're not allowed to go near the water in case, because let's remember, the epidural goes straight into your spinal column. And that is a source of tremendous danger to anybody. Hence the reason why they cannot be in the water. Because if the water were for any reason infected, it would be allowing the infection to go straight into the spinal column, which would be an invitation to death. But notwithstanding that fact, Meghan had her epidural. According to the tale that she and Harry have been telling, she gave birth, plop, plop, presumably in the water. And then, notwithstanding the fact that she had 2 epidurals, not one, 2 epidurals, she was able to go home within, I think it was 3 hours. Now, what we need to know is, did she twerk on her way out? Oh, did she twerk? That is the question one needs to ask. Did she twerk? We need to know, did she twerk? I think we can safely leave the twerking to one side for the moment, don't you? Because the point is a valid one, and the point really does deserve some explanation from Meghan as to why she missed the photo op of her life when she was going to be able to display to the world as a proud, confident woman of colour. Well, so I think we can safely leave that one for the moment, don't you? Because I know people think they deserve an explanation, but I also know that Meghan feels that she doesn't owe anybody any explanation. She doesn't owe anybody any explanation as to how the belly wobbled, as to how Archie was evocative of Tom Daley. Maybe Tom Daley introduced some of his genes into that pool. You know, remember the one that Archie was prenatally going to dive into at Birkenhead. So let's leave it at that for the moment, because I have said time and again, and I'm going to repeat it. There are only 2 possibilities where Meghan's conduct insofar as the extraordinary performance during the Meghancies is concerned. There are only 2 possibilities, neither of which reflects well upon her, one of which is even more malicious than the other. And the one that is even more malicious than the other would be the one where she had indeed been pregnant. And we leave it at that for the moment. Francesca Rose says, I believe that Prince William stated in a video that he would like his mother to rest in peace. He is probably annoyed that so many people are milking her memory, and I agree with him. The fact that his brother and awful wife are the worst culprits is absolutely disgraceful. I believe that Prince William has expressed a desire that his mother be left to rest in peace. Insofar as I recall, he and Harry did a commemorative thing for her, with the understanding that it would be a one-off, and thereafter she would be allowed to rest in peace. If I remember correctly, it was to mark the 20th anniversary of her death. I think it's absolutely appalling that Diana is dug up on a daily basis by Harry and Meghan. And she is used, in my view, in the sickest possible way by both of them. I mean, Harry has been really nasty about people like John Travolta, who, according to him, these people have jumped on the bandwagon and been milking his mother's death or memory. Well, John Travolta didn't milk his mother's death or memory. He honoured it. Harry, on the other hand, and Meghan have been like grave robbers. They have ghoulishly dug up the grave, and they're almost sucking the bones. Their behaviour is so repellent. And as for her constant, I'm Julia Roberts, or actually I'm Diana. I'm Shy-Di. Shy-Di. But it works with Harry. Well, less so now, I gather. But it certainly worked with him for a long time. I mean, can you imagine the guy has such a superficial insight into his mother that a phony with phony nonsense could actually pull off a hat trick the way Meghan did, cosplaying Diana. And, oh, she's so much like Mummy. She's so much like Mummy. She couldn't be less like Mummy if he tried in terms of Mummy's virtues. Let us see what happens, because it's coming up for Diana's 30th anniversary of her death, and I would like her to be left in peace. I mean, she has a legacy, and it needs to be, wherever possible, addressed in both the positives and the negatives, but otherwise she should be left to rest in peace. I suppose, though, if you stand the chance of making millions of dollars by sucking your mother's bones, suck away is going to be the order of the day. How distasteful. And my understanding is that William doesn't like any of it, and he shouldn't. But let's remember, Harry is not the only member of Diana's family who has exploited her. I leave you with that thought. Do you think we should mention Charles Spencer's name now, or shall we give it a miss? I'm not quite sure which one you think. Maybe we should do one or the other. Baron Squidward says, I have doubts about conflating Arday and Nutmeg. He was not chasing after the dollar. He is much more a fantasist and fabulist. She is more a compulsive liar and irrational delusional. These terms may appear quite similar, but in my opinion, they result from differing psychological disturbances. Clearly, both are highly narcissistic, but she has a far darker personality, wanting to be seen as a hero for running 30 marathons is naturally enough, had it been true. She expects to be worshipped for her authentic qualities, in quotations. in quotation marks, sorry. That is, being supremely caring, compassionate, heart attack beautiful, and so on. This is a lot stranger and much darker. I actually agree with you, Baron Squidward. Jason Arday is a fabulist and a fantasist, and he did run at least some of the marathons, if not all of them. And he was a PE teacher, and, well, I think he had a diploma in PE from O-levels sort of thing, a pass. So, but he seems to have simply been greedy for approbation and recognition. Well, but let's not dress it up. There were very dark aspects to his fraudulence as well, chief of which was that all the students he was supposed to supervise and failed to supervise adequately, he failed them. They have suffered as a result of his fraudulence. He knew that he would inevitably have to fail them and didn't care. So, let's not entirely excuse as harmless his egotism. But he clearly wasn't malicious the way Meghan is malicious, although he also played the race card. Sorry. For instance, when one of the students complained about his lack of supervision and the fact that this was impacting adversely upon that student's grades, he accused the student of racism. So did the university. Now, that's a huge, huge failing on behalf of Cambridge University itself. But let's not dress it up. He was also playing the race card. But he obviously has some authentic qualities, because he certainly has a very active imagination. He was clearly a good enough actor to be able to swing getting into Cambridge. Of course, he made sure that his locks were very long, below the waist locks now. That is an absolute statement of blackness, if ever there was one. And he made sure he played the black card for all it was worth. Had he not been black, none of this would have happened. Had Meghan not been brown, none of what has happened would have happened. Both of them are absolute object and abject lessons in the dangers of people using colour and the colour card to advance themselves when their talents do not allow for the advancement, and therefore they are conning everybody by using the colour card. Totally, totally unacceptable. Totally. She may be worse, but then he's a little bit younger than she is. I think when she was his age, I think there's about a 3 or 4 year difference. She wasn't quite as practiced as she now is. Maybe with him, practice will make perfect. Because notice, he stood down as a result of the effect that all of the questions were having on his mental health. So he clearly knows how to play the game as well. And quite frankly, I don't know about you, but I am sick and tired of people who do not have ability and want the rewards of the labour without actually providing the fruit of labour. It's called cheating. It's a con. And I see far too much of it in the world nowadays. Western civilization is at a point of flux at this time in many ways, shapes and forms, politically, economically, philosophically, religiously. We need to use these frauds as lessons, as warnings of not only what people will be doing when given the chance. And there's nothing new about it. You had white frauds before you had black frauds. You had people playing not only the white card, the white privilege card. You had snobs playing the breeding card. So there's nothing new about all of this. There's a new cast, but not a new play. The play's as old as time itself. And just as how it was wrong then, it is wrong now. And we need to be aware of it. And we need to call people out on it. Cambridge University has an awful lot of mending fences to do. Will it do it? Or is it going to be swept under the carpet as so much else is nowadays? I suspect it's a struggle, and I suspect there's going to be a concerted attempt to sweep it under the carpet. But we are engaged in an atavistic societal struggle in our civilization at the moment. And this is but one of the many areas that are representative of the issues at hand, which basically boil down to honesty versus dishonesty, entitlement versus justification. And we need to understand that we are living in an age where people feel entitled, not because of their labours and not because of their talents, but because of their existence. It all started with Rousseau. Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. Man was never born free. And I'm not saying that the Enlightenment didn't have many virtues. It certainly did. But that was one hypothesis that could not have been more fallacious if he tried. I suspect I might have made the point. Melly says, it should be suggested that a greater number of individuals beyond Jason Arday ought to resign. The excessive admiration directed towards him was quite uncomfortable to witness. It was outrageous. It was evident to those who interacted with him that he did not embody the persona he presented. Well, anybody with 2 grains of sense and 3 pounds of reason in their being would have known that the whole thing was farcical. And what is truly extraordinary is that some of the supposed greatest minds in this country, who are supposed to be teaching the youth of today about the wisdom of the past that will lead to a better future, they swallowed the lies They were happy to swallow the lies. I mean, can you imagine? He is praised for his accomplishments that are so clearly fraudulent. And he is welcomed as if he is a god because he's black. I mean, it's unbelievable. It would be offensive if they did this to anybody else. And it is offensive that they did it to him. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you very much for your time and attention. If you enjoyed this, may I prevail upon you to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, hype if you can, and let me know in the comments section what ground you would like us to be covering. Godspeed and goodbye.